Welcome. Well, welcome to a Battle Aces tier list. This is my opinion after playing this game for like almost 2 weeks now, like 10 to 14 days or whatever, something around there. I haven't played every single day, but I have played quite a bit. My total amount of time so far, let's look at it this way. This is telling you what I think about the units after 52 hours of gameplay. Okay. This is 52 hours Vibu theory here. Okay, this guy right here. This, I believe, is the advanced recall, right? This is the advanced recall. This is a tier 3 unit, if I'm not mistaken, and it's not really used very much. I'm gonna go ahead and say this unit is probably gonna be like a C tier unit. No one really uses it. I have not really played against it almost ever. It's a blink unit that costs gas. There's a lot of units in this game that I feel like could crap on it. So maybe even like D tier, I feel like. I don't know. Not really worth your time. This unit will, you can't even make this unit until you're tier 3, Foundry or a Starforge, or is it, I can't remember which one it comes from, but it just sucks. I would say this unit's crap. This unit right here is the advanced bot. It's the anti-air tier 3 unit as well. It's like 50 like red resource, 50 of the main resource. It's easy to get, but it's, why would you get it? It sucks balls. This unit also is not very good. It's supposed to be a ground unit that is an anti-air unit with like stim pack and stuff, and it just doesn't. Every time I've ever seen this unit get made, it's like, why did you make it as well? It's crap. This unit is a tier 2 Starforge recall unit. It's just called, I think it's called Advanced Recall. I'd say this unit is probably B tier, in my opinion. Not A tier, actually. I think this unit's B tier. The reason why is because it costs gas. And I don't feel like it, I don't think it's necessarily bad. But I feel like, again, this unit would struggle in certain situations. I don't think this unit would like be the best potential thing you could do. I feel like there are pushes that could be viable with an advanced recall, but I just really don't like the fact that it just costs gas for what it provides. There's, again, other units that cost gas that I feel like could crap on it overall. Airship. I think Airship is, I would say Airship is an A tier unit. It's definitely not S tier. Maybe even a B tier unit. Actually, it's like a B tier unit. I genuinely think it's B tier. I would have given it A tier on like my first week, but after playing more of the game, it's B tier. The reason why this unit's B tier is like it's the anti-air unit for tier 2. If you're basically on tier 2 and you and your opponent are both going air, if you make this unit, you will win the fight. But this unit drops off heavily on tier 3. And if you're still making this unit when someone else is making something better on tier 3, you're probably gonna lose. This unit also does, it actually does okay versus ground, even though it's an anti-air unit. There are definitely better choices versus ground than this. But at least if someone else makes an air unit and you're also on tier 2, there is a place for this unit where it can win that battle. It can definitely give you advantages in the tier 2 area of the game. But it's still not a great unit in my opinion. There's better units. Tier 2. Sorry, B tier is what I meant to say. All right, artillery. This artillery big boy right here. This unit also is a bit fucking weird. It's awkward. It requires a lot of tech to get to. Once you're here, mortars outrange you, snipers outrange you, and if you're making this unit and your opponent has something else that's like, you know, out there instead, air units literally can't hit air units. This unit takes too long to get to, and it doesn't provide nearly enough power when you get there, in my opinion. It's not crap, but it's not great. It's like B tier, maybe even C tier, honestly. I'll leave it on B tier, it's fine. It's not the worst unit in the game, but there's definitely units that make it crap otherwise. Assault bot. Assault bot is definitely either S tier or A tier. I'm gonna put it in A tier. The reason why is because if your opponent has AoE, it can completely crap all over the assault bot. But if your opponent does not have AoE, it's definitely an S tier unit at that point then. But most people in this game do run some form of AoE, so I would give it A tier. It has windows of opportunity where it can do amazing things. It is a really good unit, but AoE just kind of farms it way too hard. Like Mortars, Shocker, Ballista, something like that. It's just, and then it kind of completely hard counters it. But up until those situations happen, this unit does do really well. And if there's not enough AoE, this unit can overwhelm it too. So I would say it's either almost S tier, if not maybe A tier. Ballista, the non-heavy version. This unit's an F in my opinion. I don't ever want to make this unit because I feel like I'm making garbage. We'll put it E tier. It's just, I feel like this unit sucks. I don't really ever see a point that I want to make this unit. It doesn't really perform very well. I feel every time someone else makes it, I get wins every time. I'm just like, oh, you made that unit? Oh, you're dead. Like its range is mediocre. Its damage feels mediocre. Its health is very light. It's very easily killable. It cannot hit air. It's like a mid-range AoE unit. It's a Shocker, but worse. Exactly. It just sucks. This unit is not great. I don't really like it right now. I have not really seen a reason why I think this unit would be better than other units. This unit is a anti-air missile bot, right? This is a core unit. I would say this unit's an A tier unit. The reason why is every time it is out, it does feel like it can be threatening, but I feel like if you're not making air units, this unit is not going to be intimidating at all. Even if you are making air units, if you make them in a certain way, this unit could still get overran pretty heavily. It's not the fastest unit in the world. I'm pretty sure it has a stim pack. This unit has a lot of reasons why it is good, but at the end of the day, I don't really feel like this unit's S tier because this unit has a lot of weaknesses at the same time. It doesn't trade the best ground versus ground in terms of like certain concaves and certain things. But it's not the worst either. It's not that bad. I feel like this unit's an A tier unit. Overall, I would say it's an A tier unit. We got big turtle shell guy, the big tier 3 unit, Behemoth or whatever it's called. This unit got buffed. Before it probably would have put it in like C tier because it's just really tanky, but they made it do more damage, and it is surprisingly really annoying because of its range. Like it's not as easy to kite it, things like that. For tanking purposes, I feel like it does a good job. I personally don't like running this unit for one of my slots that much, but I do like when this unit is out with like my teammate running it or something like that. If I'm playing twos, if I'm playing 1v1, I probably don't make this unit, but it does still have viability to be really good. And you know, this unit I would say is pretty fucking solid. As a whole, it does feel like a good unit. I think this unit is S tier worthy overall. It's and then yeah, what my chat just said, it costs no gas, so that is a great reason why that unit definitely also can be up there. Having units that don't cost gas are very, very, very rewarding in different ways because you can tech switch a lot, like around it. You can fill in tech around it, and it's not as hard to do that. So I think that unit's S tier. Blink is S tier, I would say. And the reason why Blink is S tier is because early game you can be mobile, you can do little pokes and prods, whatever. You can be super annoying. With this unit, you can also capitalize on jumping on someone in the early game and, like, you know, someone's harassing, blah, blah, blah. You're doing all this stuff. You're just trying to take efficient trades. This unit can do it pretty decently. But the bigger reason why this unit is S tier, in my opinion, is because this unit doesn't cost gas. It is a unit you can mass really easily. And it's really good at being able to dive on top of vulnerable things, which can be game-breaking or game-changing very quickly. So let's say, for instance, your opponent has like 15 snipers, and you just make like 30 blink boys here. and then you just blink on the the snipers, like, and then you have something behind it or whatever. You're pushing on it, and you just blink all over him with a bunch of your red resource units, your blink units. It's amazing. You can take incredibly good trades with blink, based on the fact that you can just shove it into someone's face that has a lot of vulnerable tech units, especially if they don't have AoE. So this unit, I would say, is S tier. It's pretty solid. It does a good job doing what it does, and it's not even expensive either. Evil Morage, thank you for the 17-month resub. I appreciate you, dude. Thank you, thank you. Then you have the blink version of the anti-air unit. This unit, for anti-air purposes, I would put it in A tier. It is overall really good. It's able to, the fact that it has blink means that, like, whenever someone's harassing you or doing something with air, when you blink at them and get on top of them right away, you can get a lot of good connections really quickly, and you can kill air pretty fast with this unit. I think it's one of the better anti-air units. It's not, I don't think it's the best anti-air unit, but it's definitely one of the better ones. It definitely performs well, and it doesn't really have that, and it's same thing as like the blink unit. You can use it late game and like shove it, like if you have any left over, you can shove it on top of people with blinking on their tech units and things like that. So I think it's an A tier unit. It's overall pretty solid. Bomber. Bomber is B tier, in my opinion. The reason why is in certain situations, this unit feels like it could be S tier. And then in other situations, it feels like it could be F tier, literally. It could be one or the other, and it really depends on what you're fighting against. This unit is good against slow, blobby units that have a relatively medium to low HP, like a bunch of range units that are walking around auto-attacking shit. If you're fighting against something like that, this unit does wonderful. But it's like you're hoping that units that are slow and blobby are in your opponent's deck when you play the game. Because if we're talking about simply attacking someone's mineral line with this, which is every game, I think there's better options. I don't think this is like the pinnacle of what you want to be using to kill a mineral line. It's pretty expensive. It costs 50 gas per bomber, and it takes 2 bombers to kill a mineral patch. So you're spending 100 to kill each patch, and that's assuming none of them die. And this unit's very squishy. It could totally die on the way across the map. Maybe if your opponent has like a mortar in the mineral line or something, it's not going to do shit. So, yeah, Bomber is like, I would say it's B tier because there are moments when it does well, but there are moments when it does horrible. And it really depends on what your opponent's running. Then you have Bulwark. Bulwark is definitely a D tier unit, in my opinion. It's a unit that you play if you have no other choice. This is like the starter unit that a lot of people have, I think. I don't know. Or maybe that was one time when they were getting the unit for free. Bulwark sucks. Bulwark is crap. It's so crappy. There's other choices you could literally spend your money on that are just better. It's not the worst unit in the game, probably. There probably are moments where it could seem like it's okay. But at the end of the day, this unit's pretty crappy. It definitely is probably going to get buffed. It just feels like trash. Every time I've used it, I've been like, why? I'm taking it out of my deck right away because it sucks. That's how I feel about the Bulwark. It's so bad. Surprised I even know its name, how bad it is. It's very not memorable how much... The amount it performs in a game is, you don't even realize it's there. It's just crap. So I almost want to make it even lower, but well, I'll give it D tier because it could perform if you put it in a game. I could see it doing better than certain things, like things that aren't air units that, you know, if my opponent didn't have an air army at all, I could make a bunch of bulwarks and I could kill their army if they have no anti-air. That's very possible. It's definitely not good. Butterfly is definitely a good unit. Butterfly is, I would say, an S tier unit. I think Butterfly is amazing because if your opponent does have anti-air, or if your opponent does not have anti-air, as long as you can kill the anti-air and keep most of your butterflies alive to kill the rest of the army, this unit is insanely good. You can kill an army so fast with a group of butterflies, and there's a lot of games where you'll be playing and your opponents will have like mass crabs, mass just what any units that can't hit air, mass tanks, mass ground or range armies, whatever. Tons of units in this game can't hit air, and a butterfly is fast and it hits really hard on ground because it can only hit ground, and it does great DPS. It just chunks. Like even if your opponent has like mass like Crusader tanks, you can still kill the majority of their army before like they get away from you and like run across the map or whatever they're doing. It's a very good unit. And even if your opponent has anti-air, if they only have like, let's say 200 resources worth of anti-air investment in the gas department, and you have like 1,000 resources invested into your butterflies, you might lose a couple butterflies, but you'll win the fight, and then you can kill the rest of his army. So this unit forces more reactions out of your opponent as well. It's just annoying. It does a good job at what it does. Crab. Crab is, I think, it's definitely not S tier. It's maybe A tier. It's maybe B tier. If it is B tier, it would be at the front of B tier. If it is A tier, I feel like it's at the back of A tier. I feel like it's A tier. Crab is overall pretty good. It's a nice tank, but the problem with Crab, in my opinion, is even though it's like a meat shield unit, it's really meaty. It's not the fastest unit in the game. It's got like a relatively decent move speed. It's got a relatively decent HP bar. It's just like a relatively decent tank. But there are things in this game that can completely crap on it. Like anything that's faster than it, anything that AoEs it. Like, for instance, like a Swift Shocker could completely crap all over crabs. A Swift Shocker could crap over a lot of units though. But a crab definitely does its job, which is tanking relatively well. I just don't see this unit being S tier because it's not like absurdly good at doing what it does. It just does it relatively well. I feel like a crab can be far. I feel like a crab is a unit though that like if you don't balance it well in your army with other things and you just kind of go crab crazy, it becomes a bad unit in my opinion. I think mass crabs is not very good, even though a lot of people love going mass crab builds. It's just like full A move. I feel like it only beats people who don't know what they're doing. Yeah, but it's again for like 2v2. It's a good tank. It is a good tank for like one of your teammates. And then we have Crusader. Same exact thing as Crab. I think I'm gonna put the Crusader in front of the Crab. Crusader is. I'm also gonna move this like maybe like, actually no, I'm gonna move that in the back. That's the worst A tier unit I think. And then we'll put that there. We'll put this here. Let's rearrange my things here. That's fine. I'm fine with that. So what did I just grab? Crusader. Crusader is honestly the exact same thing as a Crab, but it's a little bit better than a Crab, I would say. It's a tank that is relatively fast. It's your Foundry exclusive, like it's the choice you're gonna basically make if you go Foundry, if you need a tanking unit. And there are certain builds, there's a lot of builds in the game that can benefit from something that tanks for it. There are definitely some counters to tanking play styles and ways that you can get crapped on going Crusaders. Like air units and like destroyers, stuff like that. But overall, Crusader is a very solid choice, especially for 2v2. It does like it's a necessity. It's a necessary unit to have in there just for somebody to be able to tank, especially on tier 2. This is like a mid-game build that a lot of people like to stay on and play into. I feel like a lot of people actually don't rush tier 3 that often, especially people who go for timing attacks and shit. So Crusader, good unit overall. I don't think it's S tier, but it is solid. It's a good unit. The reason why I don't think it's S tier is because it has a gas cost, honestly. If it didn't have a gas cost, it would be S tier. But the fact that it has gas cost means that the more Crusaders you make, the less you make of something else. And there are times when that is bad. So it's A tier unit. It's something that you balance in your composition. It's not something that you mass or something that you can rely on by itself. Yeah. Good unit overall. Destroyer. Destroyer, I honestly think, is at the front of B tier. Destroyer is good. Destroyer is not bad. Destroyer is really good in a situation where your opponent is like going for mass tanks and like mass crusaders or mass mammoths or something like that, or something that's just really durable, and you don't want to go Starforge. If you're like, no, I want to go Foundry, I want to do a Foundry playstyle here against that, he's good then. But if it's not that, I don't think he's that great other than that. This unit, people do like to make this unit as like a base sniper. I don't think he's very good for that. Like, and he also got nerfed a little bit, so he's not even as good as he used to be for that. This unit's just like really flimsy, really floppy. It will die super easy if it gets caught or if it gets jumped on. So I feel like it's situationally good, but more often than not, this unit's probably not the unit you want to just be making, because if you make it when it's not time to make it, it will feel kind of crappy and it's not going to feel very good. So doesn't it doesn't 4 or 5 shot a base? 4 or 5 one-shot a base? No, they nerfed the damage of it a little bit. Maybe it's still like 5 can one-shot a base, but that might be real. It's definitely around that number, but this unit though, like you have to walk super slow to get to a base. It doesn't have any mobility at all. It's a slow ass unit. It can't hit air, and there are definitely things in this game that can completely shut this unit down. And I would say the majority of things in this game can, like the majority of builds you're gonna run into can actually beat this unit that aren't taking builds. Like, again, this unit's great versus a Crusader and Mammoth spam playstyle, but other than that, it's more questionable. It's definitely more questionable. There's other things you might want to be making instead. It is very good versus tank spam, though. So it's not a bad unit. I do think it's not even an A tier unit. I think it's at probably the top of B tier. Only because if this unit, if your opponent doesn't have the specific thing you want to be shooting at, you're probably not going to want to make it, period. You're going to be like, oh, Destroyer seems kind of bad now. Dragonfly. Dragonfly, I would say, is probably at the bottom of S tier. And the reason why I think Dragonfly is in the bottom of S tier is because this unit is a versatile unit. It is a unit that can kill air units, it can kill ground units. It is a tier 2 unit. You can mass it early game. It does relatively decent damage overall. It doesn't do as good of damage as like a butterfly, but the trade-off is a butterfly cannot hit air. And also a dragonfly, it has a relatively good move speed. It's just overall relatively good in the things that it does, but I feel like if your opponent has, you know, a counter to this, you're going to have to kind of avoid it. You're not going to be able to like overwhelm it most of the time. You probably just want to, it's like in your best bet to like maybe like not fight something that counters you, even if you have more resources invested. You probably just want to run around them and like go for mineral patches or like kill units that can't shoot back in some way. It's overall still a good unit. It's very annoying when it's on the field, but I do think that I honestly find butterflies more annoying when it's killing my ground units. And if I'm fighting with air units, I'm not really that afraid of a butterfly as long as I have an air unit that can fight back. Like if I have like airships or something, which is this unit right here, like if I have that unit right there, like I'm not really afraid of a butterfly. It's gonna be fine. But I still think butterfly is a dragonfly here. I still think a dragonfly does force weird situations in a game a lot based on the fact that you can just make it. So I do think that the fact that this unit can be so game dominating, it's pretty solid. And like you can literally force it in any game, honestly, because you can just kill mineral patches at the end of the day with it and just run around. So I think it's pretty sick. Overall, pretty good. All right. Falcon. This unit is, I would say, probably at the bottom of A tier. Maybe not behind that unit though, but like there, near the bottom of A tier. I think Falcon is really, really, really good, which is why it gets the A tier recommendation. for one or like one or two examples of a situation where, like, let's say your opponent has a decent amount of anti-air, like tier 1 anti-air or something like that, and you just do like a Starforge tech build into like mass falcons, and your opponent has like an assortment of gas expenses with anti-air units plus other units that are not anti-air. A falcon would be great in a situation like that, because a falcon is actually pretty durable. It's very slow, but it's pretty durable. So if your opponent is like not able to just run around you, if it's kind of like an all-in situation, it's great in those times, because you can like force a fight, and it can a lot of times it can win the fight if your opponent just doesn't have enough anti-air that is especially fast enough to like kite the falcon or something like that. So if they don't have like hunter killers or whatever the hell they're called, the Goliath unit, stuff like that, then this unit shines really well. Like, it definitely kind of womps tier 1 anti-air most of the time. So it's overall a pretty decent unit in the right time, but at the wrong time, this unit sucks, which is why it's not S tier. It's also why it's low A tier. You definitely do not want to make this unit versus other things like an air unit. If your opponent goes Starforged and they have anything that can shoot air, that is also an air unit, you automatically don't want to make this unit if they have that tech available when you're making Falcon. And then if your opponent has anything that can outrange and outrun you, you don't want to make it again. So it has weaknesses that are kind of glaring, and I would say it's not something that's like you can just force it to work every time. It's really just kind of a reactive unit or a meme unit a little bit. Because if you make this and you're like, your opponent sees it on your side of the map and you're just slowly going across the map, they have a lot of time to react to it as well. But it does have its moments where it's really good, if you know what you're doing. All right, this guy, this core unit, anti-ground fighter. I would say this unit is S tier, maybe A tier, but probably S tier. Reason why is because it has good DPS. Honestly, it has really good DPS. Its mobility is pretty decent. It's really easily massable, and when you have this unit behind like a tanking line, it does perform pretty well. It can like definitely whittle down balls of units, you know, just with its DPS. It's not the worst. I don't know if I want to give it S tier. Honestly, I think I'm gonna give it A tier. I think it's overall still a really good unit. It's not a bad unit. Yeah, I think it's high A tier. I feel like this unit also is, it's a unit that's great in the early game when you're like having these like core unit battles. It's definitely not that bad, but this unit kind of runs into the same problem that other units run into, which is, if your opponent has any type of AoE, they are going to farm your face off, like hardcore. So as long as you get something that can deal with the AoE, then this unit shines a lot better. But overall, it is a good unit, and I do think it does deserve a decently high ranking overall. We have heavy ballistas. Heavy ballista. I would put heavy ballista right there. Decently high A tier unit. Maybe even it's hard to say exactly, but I'll put it right here in front of the tanks. This unit can be really annoying when your opponent has it, but it's only annoying when your opponent has it when you don't have something that can counter it in your deck. If you have something that can counter this in your deck, this unit is not annoying. It's only annoying if the game is going badly for you and you're broke, or you're starving and you have no resources to really stop it. But otherwise, this unit's not that hard to stop. I feel like it's a unit that has really good DPS. It has relatively okay range. Its HP bar is not bad, but if you have something that can outrange it or something that is an air unit, you can completely crap on it as well. And this unit's really expensive, so it's like when this unit is made at the right time, it is pretty good. But I feel like rushing for this unit is not ever a good idea, or almost always not a great idea, because you don't really have a lot of control in the game while you're rushing it, and then once you get it, it's not even like a beat all kind of unit either. There's things that can literally beat it, and if you don't know what those are, you will have games where you'll make this unit and be like, oh, it's still not even doing that great even though I made it. So it's again, it's not a bad unit, it's not bad, but I feel like it requires more of a setup than other units do to be able to perform, and that's why it's not S tier. But if in a perfect world where this unit is in the perfect situation, it could be definitely an S tier unit in those situations. But it's kind of hard to get. It's a little bit harder to get to those situations than other units. So I would give it an A tier unit overall. Then you have Heavy Hunter. Heavy Hunter, in my opinion, is now at the top of B tier. This is post-nerf. Pre-nerf, this unit was S tier. This unit definitely was S tier before it got nerfed. And the way it got nerfed is they nerfed its anti-ground attack by like a ton. Before that, when it used to have a really good anti-ground attack, this unit, you could force this unit out. You could literally just make a bunch of units, force it out, and you're good to go. You're great. You're like, oh cool, I got a bunch of these and I'm happy with it. But now, after the nerf, you're sad if you make this unit and your opponent doesn't have air units. That's straight up. So that unit now is B tier. If you make that unit and your opponent does not have air, it sucks balls. You could have made something better. Straight. You gotta believe that. You gotta know that that's a fact. Like you look at that unit and go, why did I make this? They don't have air. And even if they do have air, this unit isn't even the best unit at dealing with air, in my opinion. It's good at dealing with air overall. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's not like the best unit in the game to deal with air. It doesn't even do, like, the only thing it's good at is dealing with air, and it doesn't even do it the best at the end of the day versus everything. It's only good in that weird situation where you're on tier 2 tech and you happen to have this unit and your opponent happens to be going air. That's the only time it's good. And I don't even think it's good necessarily because it is too expensive in that sense, which is why I give this unit B tier. I would actually rather just use a core anti-air unit over heavy hunters at this point, because I don't really feel like sacrificing a fucking foundry slot for this unit anymore. Like, I hate the fact, I used to run this unit all the time, and now I don't even want to have this unit inside of my build anymore because it feels bad having to have an anti-air unit as part of my foundry tech. It doesn't feel good. And if I don't have it, or sorry, if I do have it as part of my foundry tech, now it feels redundant and weird for having core anti-air and also foundry anti-air. Because then if I make foundry anti-air and I have core anti-air, it's like it's redundant now, and I just kind of wasted my core slot. And now I don't even need my core slot anymore because now I have an anti-air foundry unit that can perform better if I'm actually trying to fight air over the core unit. And then if I have a foundry unit and like let's say now I'm like, you know what, I just don't want to run a core unit anti-air, then I'll just have two non-anti-air units for core. Well, now I have to have an anti-air unit specialist for Starforge, because now I won't have any anti-air in Starforge if I don't run an anti-air unit there either. This unit literally just breaks your fucking builds for the fact that you have it in your hand anymore, because it literally has no anti-ground. It has the worst anti-ground in the world, and it's crap if you make it for that reason. There's so many units that are better than it for anti-ground, but it does do its job for anti-air when you need it relatively well, which is why it's not lower than B tier, but it's definitely not A tier, and it's absolutely not S tier anymore, in my opinion. I think it's high B tier nowadays. If my opponent makes heavy hunters, the thing is, that's really funny. With the builds I run, which have air units inside of them, if my opponent has heavy hunter, I still feel like I'm gonna win the game. I don't even feel scared by it. This unit just kind of got nerfed into the ground. I feel like it needs to be re-looked at in some way to make it maybe more viable on the ground and maybe slightly less viable versus air, so it has some type of wiggle room in some way, so that it's not just garbage. All right, so I don't know which turret is which. I don't know which one is the Starforge turret, and I don't know which one is the Foundry turret, but we'll just do both turrets right now, and we'll just talk about both of them. Let's assume that this turret right here, let's assume this one is the Foundry turret, okay? Just the turret. It's just called turret. This is a fucking F. That unit is an F. It's crap. It's so bad. It's the worst. It's the weaker version of the turrets, and this unit costs gas and minerals, like 150, 100 and then 50. And it just does not perform at all. Like, you make it in the fight and it just dies before it's finished. When it is finished, it doesn't even perform very well. Its stats are garbage. It's just not very good. It gets ran over by everything. It feels bad. And then you have Heavy Turret, which is literally double the price of Turret, and it's a Starforge slot. And this one, I would say, is at the bottom of A tier. And the reason why I put it in the bottom of A tier is because it's not always applicable that you're gonna want to make a turret, even if you run it in your build. It is very defensive. It's literally, its entire reasoning and purpose is defensive. It is surprisingly tanky. It is very tanky. But if your opponent is going for like an aggressive push and you're doing something that needs time, it's a substitute to like a Crusader or a Mammoth or something like that. Or this big boy. Obviously it's tier 3 though. This Starforge turret, it's genuinely a tank. It can tank. It can actually buy you time in fights. The other turret, it falls over in half a second. It has literally too low of HP and stats. It's dog water. It's really, really, really bad. But the better turret, the more expensive turret that costs 200, 100, again, it can turn the tide of a fight sometimes because it can just absorb a lot of damage while your DPS behind it is killing stuff off of it. So it does have its moments. And then when it is finished as well, it can also arguably kill a lot of stuff. It's not perfect. It's not going to kill everything, but there are a lot of things that will get thrown at it that the turret can shut down. So, I think a weakness of this unit though is that it only defends one base. You can't rotate it around. So if you overly invest into a base that your opponent just decides to not attack anymore and then they go somewhere else, all of those resources are now stuck on that base, not helping wherever else you're fighting at. So it does have its weaknesses. It's not perfect. You don't want to make too many of it. It's just nice to pepper in every now and again. And I feel like when you use the unit properly, it's not bad. It's definitely, it can do pretty decent. Okay, this Hornet unit. Hornet? I know a lot of people are going to be like, this unit's amazing! This unit is high B tier. I feel like Hornet is a piece of paper fluttering around on the map. It's the wind can blow it away. It's a very, very, very squishy unit. It's not very tanky, and it does not trade the best whenever it's forced to fight something that can fight back. It is obviously an A-tier unit. It's fast. Those things are, you know, the speed is the best thing it's got going for itself. It is definitely quick, but its DPS is okay, and its survivability is very bad. So, for instance, I will play against this unit sometimes, and if I ever see my opponent making this when it's not time to make this, I'm so happy. I'm like, okay, you made Hornets, and I'm not even making air units. You're throwing money. You're like lighting your money on fire. That's what it feels like. This unit is not a unit you want to make when it's not time to make it. It's really bad otherwise. When it is time to make it, it does all right. I feel like this unit is early game only as well, though. I feel like this unit is only going to do all right if your opponent like rushes air or something like that, and you rush this unit to counter that, and you just have like 30 of them when your opponent shows up with like 7 air units. Then yeah, great. The unit will do just fine. But other than that, you never almost want to make this unit at all, in my opinion. Every time I play against this unit, I always am happy to see it because I feel like it sucks. I feel like I'm going to crush it because I never make this, and I never make air units against this unit when I have a little economy. And I feel like that's the only time this unit does well, is when your opponent has a small economy and they're also going air. Otherwise, this unit does not really get good trades. It underperforms. The bigger the army size is, the worse this unit performs, because again, it's really fast and it's really squishy, so it just gets in there and dies when the bigger the armies get. It's vulnerable to a lot of different kinds of units, like Splash especially just demolishes this unit. And yeah, but in those moments where your opponent wants to rush air, then this unit can work just fine. And that's about it. Which is why I don't want to give it anything lower than B tier. And it's relatively high in the B tier standings, but I just feel like this unit is overhyped. I feel like a lot of people like this unit. I'm not really that big of a fan. Arguably, you could retreat. You could like engage with this unit and then retreat with it. But like, I would personally rather just not make it in that sense. I would rather just make something else that costs gas that's fast and better. So yeah, B tier overall for the Hornet. What the fuck is this? I don't remember what this is. We're gonna put it on F tier because I don't even know what the fuck that even is. I never make it. I know every time I feel like I've seen this unit get made before, but it barely ever, and it just feels like I never see it because it's crap. Hunters? I need to open the game, bro. What is this unit? I'm not remembering what this unit is. Core AA, but the worst AA. It's core? For some reason, I thought it was a Starforge unit. Yeah, it's... Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay. It's a D tier unit. I feel like this unit sucks. I don't know what else to say. I never see it. I never really, you know, yeah, I don't know, dude. It's a 2 supply unit as well. It's a beefier boy. Is this unit even that good? Like, what is the fucking move speed? I don't even think it's that. I don't ever. I'll give it C tier. I'll give it C tier. It's a C tier unit. I don't think it's on the same level as Bulwark. Bulwark's really fucking trash. I'll also put Blink guy right there. Advanced Blink or whatever. But yeah, we'll put it on C tier unit. This unit just, I feel like, is a underperformer. I don't ever really see this unit. I don't ever see this unit like doing anything that crazy ever. It doesn't do shit. This unit's not scary. Every time, like, I don't even really, I don't commit this unit to memory because it's not threatening. When the day that changes, I'll actually grow an opinion about this unit. But for now, I feel like you could just not know this unit exists, and even if your opponent has it, and you'd still be fine. You'd be like, oh, okay. It's not like anything impressive. The Cat Bus. Cat Bus is C tier. The only reason why I think Cat Bus is C tier is this unit is really expensive. This unit is really situational. It's a purely anti-ground unit. I don't even think this unit does anti-ground jobs better than other units that are anti-ground that are also air units, like a Locust, for instance. I would rather spend the exact same amount of resources that you could make on Cat Buses on Locust. The only thing that this unit has going for it, the only thing that Cat Bus has going for it, is that it's a fucking tank. Essentially, this unit is like a Crusader that flies. It's all it is. So if you send this unit in as a tank, then that's fine. But other than that, this unit is a waste of your economy. It is a waste of your resources compared to what other units can do. This unit is not the fastest unit. It's not super slow either. It's like medium to like, it's, if it was a scale out of 1 to 10, this unit would be like a 6 in terms of its move speed. It's like a little bit better than the average. It's like decently move speeded. And its HP area is great. It's got definitely a lot of HP, but I feel like this unit can get crapped on by plenty of things in the game, and it's really expensive to make it in the first place. So I feel like it's just way too situational. It's never really going to be able to do the job it really wants to do that much, but there are times when it could happen. Like for instance, I was experimenting one time in 2s with Ray Rain with like a couple cat buses in the front with like a bunch of locusts behind it, and then their army latched onto the cat bus and the locusts came in behind it, and it did okay. It did fine. But like, you don't really need to do that every time. Maybe when metas evolve more, it could become more of a situational unit that becomes more oftenly used. But for the time being, I feel like it's just like a big floating tank, and that's about it. It doesn't even have that great of damage, in my opinion. Fruit Seller, thank you for the 63-month resub, bro. Welcome back. Thank you very much. Okay, next unit. King Crab. King Crab. A lot of people love their King Crab. I think King Crab is at the top of B tier. I do think a King Crab is better than a hunter, heavy hunter, but not by much. I think a King Crab is not that great. It's definitely not one of the better tanks. The reason why is because it costs gas, and I don't think it should for what it is, probably, to make this better. If we wanted to make this better, I think if it didn't cost gas, then it would be a lot better. But this unit gets kited all day, just like someone in chat said. I agree exactly, 100% wholeheartedly. This unit is very, very, very kiteable. It has cleave, but only if you stand there. Like, this unit it's big, it's bulky, it gets stuck on a lot of other units all the time. It doesn't even have the greatest of surface area because it's so large. And it doesn't even have, it has like a medium move speed. So you can kite it, you can kill it, you can focus fire it out of range, and a lot of times this unit can't even connect. The only time this unit really performs is when your opponent is in the wide open. And it's like they don't even know what the fuck they're doing. They're just like caught in the middle of nowhere. This unit is essentially an Ultralisk from StarCraft 2. And it's like an Ultralisk from StarCraft 2 that never has chitinous plating or armor upgrades. It's also pretty squishy. Like, it does not tank. Every time I fight against this unit, I just fucking crush it. I'm like, dead, 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 dead. So there are times when this unit can do pretty well, but most of the time this unit is very counterable. Like, there's a lot of things that can counter this unit. So it's not A tier. And again, it would be A tier. It would be A tier if it didn't require gas, but it does, which is the only reason why Crab is A tier and King Crab is B tier. It blows your gas on a unit that just gets kited and killed, and it's not great. Kraken. Kraken, if we're talking genuinely, honestly, a Kraken is almost F tier in 1v1, and it's probably like D tier in 2v2, because the odds of you getting this unit are really low. Like, you're probably never even gonna fucking get it, period. It's like a waste of a slot on your tech. It costs so much resources that you essentially have to be out of the game for like 4 minutes to get this unit. Which is like, if you're out of the game for 4 minutes versus good players, you're just gonna die. But if we're talking about when the unit comes out, obviously it's the best unit in the game. Like, nothing will really, like, this unit has crazy good trade efficiency. It's absurd. But if we average it out now to what it performs like and how often you're gonna get it out, it's probably D tier. again. It's you just don't ever get the unit. Like, yeah, when you get it, it's fun for a second, but like you have to spend the entire game going for it, and a lot of times you won't even get it unless you're doing something like mass recalls, which doesn't cost gas at all, and you're just expanding everywhere. So it's like a D tier unit. It's just kind of a meme. It's not really a real unit. Locust. Locust. I think Locust is S tier unit. I think Locust is actually even better than Butterfly. Locust is really, 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 really good. Locust is a unit that only costs, it's a tier 3 Starforge unit. It costs 50/50. It's very cheap, very massable. It's very fast. It hits air. It hits ground. It does good damage to air and ground. It hits buildings really hard. It kills workers relatively fast. It can run away from anything in the game, either equally as fast or faster. It's like tied for fastest unit in the game, basically. Maybe not actually. It's definitely one of the faster units in the game for sure, though. It's really solid. It's a good unit, and it can definitely create situations that are really awkward to play into. I think the only 2 units in the game that make this unit crap are a Valkyrie and a Predator, which are both tier 3 AoE splash anti-air units. Like, they both will crush a Locust, but other than those 2 units, I actually think a Locust could beat anything in the game if you have enough of it. Especially if you include the fact that you can like use the map and like go or fly around them and kill their bases and then force a fight eventually later on. Like, this unit's crazy. It's super good. And if I ever have a Locust and my opponent does not have a Predator or if they don't have a Predator or a Valkyrie, I feel like a Locust, it just runs away with the game. You can do whatever you want with this unit. It's crazy. It's absurd. It beats all other anti-air if you have enough of it. Do we have Splash AA now? Predator, so yes, there is Splash anti-air in the game. And like that's what I was just saying. Predator, which is this unit, and Valkyrie, which is this unit, both of those units will crush a Locust because they're both tier 3 anti-air splash. But other than those 2 units, a Locust can beat everything else in the game, aside from probably a Kraken as well. But you're never going to get a Kraken if I have Locust. Like, your bases will always be dead. So you will never get a Locust. Yeah. Okay, next. Mammoth. And Mammoth, honestly, I would say Mammoth is S tier. I think a Mammoth is better than a Crusader. The reason why I think a Mammoth is better than a Crusader, and it is S tier, is because I actually think the combination of going Mammoth plus an air unit is infinitely better than going Crusader plus Foundry unit, especially in 1v1. But having the ability to go for an air unit and also a ground unit does change up the game quite a bit. It creates really annoying situations for your opponent to have to deal with. That's the first reason why. The second reason why is actually because I actually do think units that are tanks that have a little bit of range to them are a little bit more annoying than units that are tanks that only have melee. So a Mammoth is more similar to like this guy, the Behemoth, or is it called Behemoth? Let's see. Is it called the Behemoth? Yeah. The Behemoth and the Mammoth are a little bit more similar in the sense that they both have a little bit of range to their attack. And I think that's a lot better than being melee because it gives you the ability to shoot over the melee front line and like shoot units behind it, pick off some like arguably expensive units, like let's say someone has destroyers behind crabs or something, and you can actually target fire the destroyers over the crab. It does happen sometimes. Blob units definitely, people blob their units out, and you can definitely take situations like this. You can kill shockers and stuff behind the front line. You can kill their tech behind their front line. You're not just stuck fighting the front line. Having the ability to focus fire this unit is crazy good. It's really, really, really nice. And it's really fast and it's really durable, just like a Crusader is. So I do think a Mammoth is overall better than a Crusader. Missile bot. Missile bot is probably an A tier unit overall. I feel like missile bot is formidable. It is annoying. It's definitely an A tier unit that you don't like seeing them have when you have air units, because you're like, ah, fuck, they have missile bots. Missile bots are definitely strongish. And I don't think they're incredible, but I do think they're definitely solid. I think it's an A tier unit. It's overall A tier. And yeah. I think other units could be better overall for like higher in the game, like higher tier units. But for core unit, I feel like this unit's very formidable. It's solid. It's a good unit overall. Mortar. Mortar. Also, one second. I'm gonna change something on my build here. I'm gonna change this A tier unit, and I'm gonna put him further up like that. I feel like he needs to be closer up, maybe even right there. The fact that he has blink is really annoying. For the same reasons I explained earlier, I feel like he should be higher on A tier. Okay, so mortar. Mortar at times has felt like S tier, and mortar at times has felt like E tier, or not even, like more like C tier. Definitely not E tier. It depends what your opponent's running. But this unit definitely is not S tier, but it definitely is A tier nowadays, in my opinion. And I do think it's better than a lot of these units. I actually think it's even better than Missilebot. I do not think it's better than Mammoth. I would put Mortar on high A tier. This is assuming that we're including 2v2s. If we do not include 2v2s, I would drop Mortar down to the top of B tier. But if we are including 2v2s, this unit goes right back up to the front of A tier. This unit is something that I would say is nice for you or your teammate to have in a 2v2, because it can definitely control a lot of ground, just because of the fact that it can siege up and AoE the shit out of a lot of units. Even if your opponent has tanks, you can focus fire the mortars on their back line and shoot at their range units if you're capable of doing that. But overall, it's a good unit. It's not a bad unit. It definitely has its weaknesses, but like when it fights durable units or when it fights air, obviously. But it is a unit that can definitely be, when it's mixed into a composition, it can definitely be annoying. So I would give it a high A tier ranking. It's definitely overall a solid addition to your army. Are you gonna post this list? This is gold. I am. I'm gonna post it. And now we're gonna talk about the Predator. Predator. Where do we put a Predator? I'll tell you right now, this unit is defined with one letter and one letter only. And it's defined with the letter of S. It's definitely an S tier unit. This unit we should really evaluate where in S tier this unit belongs. But this unit is the best anti-air unit in the game that is on the ground in the Foundry. I think this unit overall is the best anti-air unit in the game, period. But it is incredibly strong. It does require tier 3, but this unit has AoE splash, which automatically makes it S tier. And it has the range of like a fucking sniper. It has a sniper rifle AoE cannon for air units, and its move speed isn't even that bad either. It's decently fast. Even if that's all it had, this unit would still be S tier. But it can even shoot ground units when all the air units are dead. And it does splash damage to ground units. And believe it or not, it's not the greatest damage, but if you have like, let's say 10 of them and they're shooting at like a bunch of core units, you can actually kill core units with this too, with the fact that it splashes. So if I had to guess where this unit goes, I would say it's definitely ahead of Mammoth. It's definitely ahead of Dragonfly. It's ahead of Blink. I do think it's ahead of the Behemoth. And I do think it's ahead of the Butterfly. it's arguable if it's ahead of the Locust, in my opinion, or not. I would say it's not. And the only reason why it's not ahead of the Locust is because you can't always make it as much as you, just like you can make Locust. Now, like there's more situations where Locust is applicable over a Predator. But if your opponent has air units, if both of your opponents in a 2v2 are both going air, this is the best unit in the game. Straight up, Predator is the #1 unit in the game. But if the Predator, rather, if your opponents are not going air, the fact that this unit exists can definitely make them go, oh, we can't go air now because they have a Predator. Like, that's how good this unit is. So right now, this unit has the ability to not force an air game if you have it in your deck and you're going for a Foundry. And if they are going air and you make this unit, the odds of you killing them are very high. So I don't think it's as good as Locust, just because Locust has more viability, but Predator is insanely good. It is one of the best units in the game. And if your opponent has air units, you'll be happy you have a Predator because it just will straight up win the game for you. So I think it's the second unit in S tier right now. I think that's good. Then we have a Raider. Raider used to be, I would say, an A tier unit before. I would say Raider was an A tier unit when it first came out. When the beta first started, this was an A tier unit, and then it got used a lot, and then it got nerfed as well, and then now it could be a B tier unit, but not even realistically. It's more like it could even be a C tier unit, but I would say, is it really a C tier unit as well? This unit's kind of a meme, kind of sucks. If you have this unit in your deck, it's like you just kind of screwed yourself over because you wasted a slot and what you could have had something better there instead. I feel like this unit's D tier, and we'll put it in front of the Kraken because it's a little bit less of a meme than the Kraken is right now, but it is still overall kind of a meme unit at this point. It's not very good. It's very easily countered, and its damage isn't even as good as it was before. It's definitely a piece of crap unit nowadays, and you kind of like shouldn't even run it period anymore. Okay, Recall. Recall. Where does Recall go? Is it E tier? Nah. Is it a D tier? Nah. Is it C tier?
Oh,
no.
yeah.
Is it B tier? No. Is it A tier? If it is, it's at the front of A tier, but not even. It's definitely S tier. And it's definitely better than a Mammoth. It's better than a Dragonfly. It's better than a Blink. It's better than Behemoth and Butterfly. It's better than a Predator. Maybe. Yep. And it's better than Locust. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Recall is the best unit in the game, guys. You know why? Because the blink cooldown is so quick, and I can literally, it's the best unit in the game at making you able to play macro. There is no unit in the game that you would rather have to expand on than Recall, I would say. Recall is the best expansion-based unit in the game for so many reasons. Number one, you can teleport to any base you currently own. Number two, its ranged unit. Number three, its ranged DPS is relatively high. You can kill tier 3 units with this unit if you have enough of it in one shot. Like, it's literally like a Dragoon or like a Roach or like a Stalker. It's a medium range unit that can just chunk units apart when they all shoot the same target. And then not only that, number 4, when you recall at your base, whenever you recall it to a base, whatever side of your base you recall on, this unit will go to that side, so you can accurately dictate where your recalls will go on the base, which means you can punish people. If you know what you're doing, you can punish people based on like how they're moving their army versus how they're going to fight into a recall base setup. And you can always get free hits. You can always get free damage off. and it's just incredibly efficient. The unit also doesn't cost gas. It does not cost gas. So you can expand all day on this unit, and then it also can kill bases really fast. You can literally walk across the map, start shooting your opponent's expansions, and if they're not there quickly enough to defend it, which is, it does need to be pretty quick, because if you have like 10 recalls, you could kill a base in probably like less than 10 seconds. Yeah, it does good DPS. If you have 30 recalls, you probably two-shot a base, which is like 2 seconds. What it does is it's a core unit that allows you to have a lot of banked up gas to do whatever you want with. It could be with expansions, it could be with tech. It does its job very well. I think recall is incredibly good. It is one of the best units in the game. It's super solid. It's amazing. It's great. Recall Hunter. I think Recall Hunter is not necessarily S tier, even though it's really good. I think it's probably the best. In my opinion, this unit is the best anti-air unit in the game. I don't give a shit what you say. The reason why I think that is because this unit is the best unit in the game that is anti-air focused at defending bases that are spread out. It is the best macro core anti-air unit. It pairs really well with Recall Hunter. You can recall them both at the same time. They both have the same recall cooldown. And it does actually have relatively good stats to kill air units. Whenever I make this air unit, or this anti-air unit, and I recall at a base that's getting attacked by an air unit, or about to get attacked by an anti-air unit, or by an air unit, this unit can teleport directly under the air unit. It can burst it, it can one-shot it if you have like enough of them, which doesn't even require that many. Like 5 recall hunters could probably one-shot a butterfly, or maybe not now after the nerf. Or the buff, sorry, to that unit, maybe like 7 or some shit. But either way, it doesn't take that many. This unit can literally kill almost all air units in the game. It can kill all tier 2 units or tier 1 units. Or there are no tier 1 air units. But it can kill all tier 2 air units, no problem. And it can teleport. So like you can expand and not have to worry about your bases getting harassed in like 4 different directions. It's great. We love it. It's a good unit. And then if you, like your opponent like sends a bunch of ground at that base that you have anti-air units at, you can teleport out of there or whatever, and it's nice. I think this unit is incredibly solid. Okay, Recall Hunter. Recall Hunter, where are you at? Are we putting you up here too? No, we're not. Putting you here? No. We're gonna put Recall Hunter probably at the front of B tier. Reason why? Yeah, I think that's better. Recall Hunter is at the upper end of B tier. Let's also do this, realistically. I think a Destroyer is actually better than a Hunter, Heavy Hunter. Also, let's do this. The Recall as well is also better. You're also better. You're better. That's better. That's a better looking list. But anyways, Recall Hunter is the unit we're looking at right now. And Recall Shocker, sorry, Recall Shocker. Recall Hunter is this guy, sorry. Recall Shocker, it's a B tier unit, and this is why. It has Recall. Recall is great. We love Recall. It's so good. It has the Shocker attack ability, which is a bunch of lightning that goes out, and it electrocutes units in a splash style attack. It does pretty decent damage. If you have a lot of Recall Shockers, you can definitely chunk out a big army, and it's nice. But this unit is not great in terms of attacking. It's only really good in terms of defending. The reason why its attack is kind of shit is because its range is like mediocre. Its move speed is abysmally bad. And its health is also kind of mediocre. It's a slow moving, weakish unit for defensive purposes. And its damage is good, but it has to be close to do damage, and it doesn't ever get close unless it's versing melee, or unless you teleport it onto armies, because it's so slow it can get kited all day. Like, it's just never really going to connect. So like when you're not defending your base with it, it just feels like trash. It feels really bad, and it's only really good when your opponents are like having like a lot of crabs or something like that, and then you can like get a shock off and then recall out. Something really specific. But a lot of other kinds of armies, this unit just feels like it kind of gets kited out. It kind of just underperforms, and it doesn't do the greatest. So I definitely don't really see this unit as an A or an S tier. But it is, when it does defend and when it does actually land connections to targets, it does do quite a bit of damage. So when it is allowed to do the things that it tries to do, especially defensively, it can do it well. And it's you know, high B tier, I would say. Scorpion. Scorpion goes right around the same place as Crab. I actually think Scorpion is maybe better than Crab, personally, just because you have more ability to maneuver around more of the map with it. And it does everything a Crab does, but I think it does it better because it still is, for the fact that it costs half the amount of a Crab, it's pretty tanky and it's pretty decently fast and it can do decent damage. It's just like if you were to cut a Crab in half and then you have two of them running around, essentially. And I kind of like that. I like when having more stuff and having more ability to get all over the place. So I think it's around the same place as a Crab, but I like it better because it's half the cost and also half the supply. Shocker. This is also an A tier unit. This unit, I would say, goes right in front of the tanking units, the Crabs and the Scorpions, right behind Crusader. This unit is a great unit for like a 2-base all-in. It's great when you do like these mid-game timings, but if you don't end the game on a 2-base timing or like a 3-base timing, I feel like this unit starts to scale horribly as the game progresses. This unit is only good in the early game, but it is really good in the early game. It definitely has ways to kill you pretty heavily. But if you don't end the game early on and your opponent now has tier 3 and they have better tech out, whatever, this unit becomes kind of crap. It becomes kind of useless almost. And it becomes kind of a way to just waste your resources at that point. So not a huge fan of it once you're there. But overall, it's still a pretty good unit. Sniper. Sniper is definitely either A or S tier. If it is A tier, it's definitely high A tier. And if it's S tier, it's probably low S tier. I would rate this unit as low S tier. The reason why Sniper is low S tier, or why it is S tier period, is because it doesn't have an air auto attack. It doesn't have great move speed. It doesn't have good defensive play, period. But it is amazing aggressively against certain things. And it's amazing versus everything aggressively that's not air if you have enough of them. If you get to a point where you have like 25 snipers, like you're going to be doing a lot of damage with these snipers. They're going to be just one-shotting basically almost everything. But you got to make sure you're not like in a position where you're just super exposed and you're just going to die. This unit's also even better in 2v2 than it is in 1v1. A sniper is incredible for the fact that it has a hit scan based attack. It does not waste DPS with other snipers. Every sniper is going to have an efficient attack every time they shoot. You're never going to have snipers having overkill, being like, oh, we all shot the same wasp, and whoops, like they all shoot their own target because they all instantly connect to their own target. And if the target dies, the next sniper that's shooting will shoot something else immediately as well. It won't waste DPS. So it's great. It's super A-move friendly. And then on top of that, other than durable units, a sniper farms everything in the game. It genuinely does. If it's not a durable unit, so if it's not like a Crusader or a Mammoth or a Behemoth, something like that, a sniper will just absolutely farm everything else on the ground. And then if you're in a good position too, where like your opponent can't really engage you because you have like mortars or you have like whatever, you have your own army with your snipers, you can just constantly shave off parts of their army and force fights. It's amazing. It's amazing. So this unit's ability to like carry a game is very high as long as you make it at the right time and it's not versus like a bunch of tanks. Because if you make if you do make sniper and all your opponent has is a bunch of crusaders or a bunch of mammoths and like core units behind it, you should not be making snipers, especially if they have a lot. If they have like 1-to-1, one crusader for one sniper, so you have like 15 snipers versus 15 crusaders, why the hell are you making snipers? That is not time to go snipers, which is why it's not high S tier. This unit does have counters. There are things that can beat it, but at the end of the day, if you get enough of it, it just scales out of control. It has a great ability to carry games. If you get it like scales exponentially, I would say. It grows in power pretty well. It's not super absurd, but it is still pretty good. I would say S tier worthy. Then you have stingers here, boys. Stingers. I would say stingers are A tier, and they're gonna go right around where the shocker is. I would say they're gonna be probably above the shocker. I think a stinger is a really good unit in the early game. Stingers definitely do well when you pair them with like Wasp. They definitely have the potential to like end games really fast. They're really annoying in early game, low eco situations. But when you get high economy situations, Stinger becomes crap. It just gets AoE'd down. It becomes like a core unit almost. It just gets AoE'd like the rest of them. And it just doesn't really perform. It's not really something. It'd be like saying, oh, I'm Terran. I'm a Terran player in StarCraft 2 and I'm at 150 supply. What am I going to make now? Let's make Reapers. It's literally like a Reaper. It's really good early game. It's really shit late game. It's really just not worth what it costs late game. You don't want to make it late game. It's kind of a resource dump in the late game. So, but it is still A tier worthy because in the early game, it's so good. And especially when you have it in a proper composition. So it's not high A tier because it kind of drops off a cliff throughout the game, but it's still A tier worthy because it still has a lot of ways to just have like game ending potential in the early game. Then you have Swift Shocker. I could put Swift Shocker here again as well with the other similar units in this area, but I actually think it's better. And I think it's better than a Crusader. And I think it's better than a Heavy Ballista. And that, and that, and that, and that. And I think that's about where it should go right there. I think a Swift Shocker is a underutilized unit that not enough people use. I do think this unit has the same problem that a Stinger does, where it kind of drops off throughout the game and eventually you won't want to make it anymore. But I think that this unit has the ability to be more useful for longer simply because it has AoE and it's really fast. Like, if this unit is in the back of your concave and it's like DPSing front line of melee, it does get damage out there pretty quickly and it starts like shredding the DPS line. Also, if you ever notice your opponent doesn't have a unit that is range based or air based that can be longer than a Swift Shocker, you can actually harass your opponents with Swift Shocker and you can just run away. It's like a Hellion. It literally goes in and DPSs and you can kite back and like kill a bunch of stuff. And it can get crazy value as long as like mortars don't exist or like butterflies don't exist. Or like your opponent doesn't have his own shockers or something like that. Like as long as something doesn't have like range advantage over the Swift Shocker, this unit can just get crazy value. So, and there's a lot of games where you'll have compositions that are like that. So it's really good. It's a solid unit, I think, and I think it's definitely high A tier. Okay, Valkyrie. Valkyrie. It's not S tier. Valkyrie's not S tier. It probably is A tier. This unit's anti-ground attack is very underwhelming. It's very underwhelming. Its anti-air attack is great. It is an anti-air unit. It's straight up supposed to be an anti-air unit, but it still also can shoot ground. Its anti-air is great, but its anti-ground is very crap. So it kind of puts it in like a specialistic situation where it's really just an anti-air unit, even though you can still make it for ground, which is why it's an A tier unit and not like a B tier or C tier, because it still actually can kill ground. It's not... I think it's about right there. I think a Valkyrie is in the upper tier of A tier, but I don't think it's the best. I definitely think there's other choices you can run that I think are overall better, but it's not a bad unit. I can see it being better than quite a bit of things in A tier. I definitely think the Blink unit is surprisingly like a very good unit. Like overall, the Blink boys are pretty good. I do think it's better than this Gunbot though. So yeah, I'm gonna give this like up like mid to upper A tier overall. Is this 1v1 or 2v2? It's a combination of both. I'm literally accounting for the entire game overall. In general, I'm just talking about the overall the unit's capabilities here, and like as a game as a whole. I think it's like upper A tier, and I feel like there are definitely times when you'll be happy you have a Valkyrie, but I don't think it's like always the unit that you're going to be happy you have. There's definitely times when you're like, I wish I didn't make a Valkyrie, or I wish I don't have a Valkyrie. Like essentially, if your opponents have any ground units that have good anti-air ability, a Valkyrie sucks balls. Like I can literally beat Valkyries with Recall Hunters, and it's a tier 1 anti-air unit, and I can TP to the base that gets attacked by Valkyries, and it doesn't matter. And then if I have other units, I can beat it even harder. Like Predator just fucking demolishes Valkyrie. So yeah, but it's still a good unit. It's not like the best unit, but it's still good overall. And then you have a Wasp. Now, I'm gonna say one thing really fast before I actually talk about where I'm gonna put this unit. If this list was based on how many people run this unit, it would be S tier rank 1. The amount of fucking people that use Wasp in their playstyle is probably like the most used unit in the game. It's probably the most used unit in the fucking game. I swear. But I don't think it's S tier. This unit's not S tier. It's not B tier. It's definitely A tier. I definitely don't want to say this unit sucks, because it doesn't. This unit definitely is only 25 minerals. It's cheap, and it does do its job pretty well for what it's supposed to do. But it's super easy to farm it. This unit also has the ability to all-in you and kill you in the early game. Like, and the other units really can't do that are core units. That's like a specific thing to Wasp that is like very annoying. So it is better than a lot of these units in the early game, or like in this list, in the early part of this list, like the lower end of A tier. I would say this unit goes probably. Yeah, go forward in front of this. Yeah. Yeah. I'll put it right there. I'm gonna put it right there. I'm gonna put it right there. I'm gonna put a Wasp at the upper end of A tier. And the reason why, there's a couple reasons. Again, I kind of touched on them a second ago, but the reasons why this unit's upper A tier is because even late game, this unit is not useless. This unit late game could be considered useful simply for the fact that it has the ability to absorb shots from like snipers. Like if you throw in a bunch of fucking Wasp versus sniper, and the snipers are just shooting a Wasp all day while the rest of your army engages, that's great for you. This unit has the ability to surround a lot of things in the game. It is the fastest melee unit in the game. So like there are a lot of times when something's trying to run away from you and you can surround it super easy because Wasp are there. It has like, it's great for 2v2 and that specific reason right there. Like you can help your teammate by surrounding your enemy and then your teammate can engage with you. It's great. It has the ability to counterattack, but its counterattack ability kind of sucks balls because it does such little DPS. Like if your opponent is at all like paying attention, it can be defended pretty well. But the real big unit, or the real big reason why this unit is upper A tier, along with everything we just said, but the real number one reason is if your opponent runs Wasp, and they simply rally to your base at the start of the game, and you are running a unit that is not a direct counter to a wasp, like not melee. Like if you run a range unit, like a recall, maybe Gunbot has decent interactions with it, but I feel like if you run a range unit and your opponent has wasp and you ever get like, and you're trying to expand and stuff like that, it's really, really annoying to have a wasp be in the game, because the slower the movement your range unit is, the worse it is. So like recall specifically for me, speaking as a recall player, a wasp is actually my fucking bane core unit in a 1v1 situation, because every single time I'm making recall and my opponent makes a wasp, I cannot kite them. You literally can't kite them. They will get on top of you and they will surround you instantly, like every time. And the best thing you can do is like tuck your back into a wall or a building, so that you can, or your workers, so that you can try to like not just get surrounded and killed. But it makes it really annoying to expand, because your expansion can get killed over time, and if you can't go defend it because you'll get surrounded and killed, it's kind of scary. So a recall, or a wasp is just like, it can, and if you pair the wasp also with like a stinger or a swift shocker, stuff like that, it can be super annoying. So a wasp definitely has a lot of all-in potential, simply for the fact that it's the fastest, most divey melee unit in the game. And yeah, it definitely deserves a high ranking for that, because it does that job pretty effectively. A lot of top-end players do play that way, which is why I feel like a lot of people try to copy that. But then a lot of people don't realize that you have to play like that. You have to be as active as a pro player to have the same efficiency as a pro player with the same units. So yeah, like this, the unit is very annoying. Wasp is very annoying. And overall, that's what I think my tier list is, guys. If I were to look at this one more time, we'll do one more touch up. Let's see if I think anything's wrong here. Realistically, I think maybe put that there, and maybe put that there. Yeah, I think Blink is underrated. Like in my list, I think it should be a little bit higher in the S tier list. Butterfly, I do think Butterfly is better than Dragonfly personally. I like the DPS of Butterfly so much. It's so good, and I feel like it's very, very solid. I think my S tier list is fine. My A tier list, I'm gonna put Gunbot a little bit behind that, actually. I'm also gonna move this unit down, actually. I don't feel like this unit's great. I'll put it here. I'm gonna derank that unit. This is the heavy turret. I think heavy turret is A tier worthy. Everything else in this list seems okay. Bomber can go up a little bit. I think Bomber can go there. No, Bomber can go there. There. Yeah, that's better. Bomber, I don't think Bomber is A tier at all. It has too many counters in the game, and it just sucks. But there are certain times where this unit can be very good. So I'll raise it a little bit, because there are some times where it is actually pretty viable. This looks fine. That looks fine. And then I'll promote this unit to D tier instead of E tier. And that's fine. And then yeah, this turret right here is the Foundry turret that just sucks. And I'll rank it up 1. Actually, just kidding. We'll leave it on F tier. It's really bad. All right, guys. Well, that's my list there. Something could be, I genuinely don't feel like all these units are the same either, to be honest. Something could definitely be E tier here. I don't think it's really Ballista, to be honest. And this is, the Kraken's definitely a meme. It's not even a real unit. That's fine. I think it's fine. That's my final locked in tier list, guys. I hope you like it. That's a tier list right there. Let's share it on Twitter.